Hello everybody, this is John and welcome to John's Longbox. Today we're going to take a look at John Constantine Hellblazer. I don't know if you're familiar with the John Constantine character, as he had a TV show. I think the show was called Constantine. Keanu Reeves played him in a movie. Um, in the Keanu Reeves, he was not John Constantine, but I liked the movie. If the movie was called Phil Schwartz, a cult guy, I would have loved it more, but at the time I was a little disappointed that they weren't closer to the comic. But that's besides the point. I liked the Constantine movie, and Keanu Reeves expressed interest in doing a sequel, which would please me because the movie was pretty good. The TV series, I DVR'd it and never watched it, so now I gotta watch it on Netflix, something like that. But let's talk about John Constantine for a second. I'm trying to get rid of that glare. Sorry about the glare, guys. But John Constantine was created by Alan Moore, the legendary British writer. He came to America and took over Swamp Thing with Saga of the Swamp Thing number 19, and he just took Swamp Thing and elevated him. I got to break out the Swamp Thing comics. I debuted, I showcased the Swamp Thing comic, but not an Alan Moore Swamp Thing comic, and I'm rambling already. But anyway, there was an unspeakable evil coming to the earth, and John Constantine showed up to mentor Swamp Thing on how to use his elemental abilities. And John Constantine was physically based on Sting from the Police, and the first time you see him, he was in a boat propelling it with like a staff, guiding it in the water, and the boat said the Honorable Gordon Sumner, which is Sting's real name. And he if you ever saw the Quadrophenia movie, he looked like Ace Face. That was Sting's character from the Quadrophenia movie. So he was quintessentially British. And he's a bastard. He's a con man. He's a manipulator. At first they hinted that he was a magician, but you never really saw him do anything, whereas this comic establishes that he's a magician. Now, he's not a Doctor Strange superhero magician where he's waving his hands in a wand, and you see that he's like a subtle magician, like as he's talking to you, you don't realize that you're being bewitched, and then all of a sudden an hour later you realize that you signed papers or you gave him your wallet and stuff like that. So he's that kind of magician, very, very subtle magic. I know this is a contradiction in terms, but he's like a realistic magician. He's not a Dungeons and Dragons magician, and he's not a Doctor Strange magician. So just think of it like if magicians really existed in the real world, think of more of a Aleister Crowley. There we go, Aleister Crowley type magician. So there we go. So he helped Swamp Thing achieve his full potential, and then he left, and he's a character with like a doom cloud above him. Okay, so let's get into this. So this was January 1988. This is number one, the new format. This was a DC experimented with like a more expensive, better quality, better paper, better printing comic book, and they called it the new format. And this was before Vertigo. This got folded into the Vertigo sub. So DC had DC Comics, and then there was a sub company within DC called Vertigo, and that was like the R-rated, more mature title, so they could have curses and nudity and stuff like that. So, but this started out as regular DC. The only thing was it was new format, so you paid more money for it, better quality paper, better quality printing, better quality ink, and I assume the authors got more. Better pay rate. I don't know anything about that. I'm just speculating. So the author is Jamie Delano. He didn't create John Constantine. He's just writing the comic. At this point, Alan Moore, I think, it had left DC Comics in a huff after The Watchmen. And John Ridgway. This is another character. Every once in a while, I'll say that there's a character that just brings out the best in writers. And this is another character that, oh my God, this is 300 issues. And barely a stinker in the 300. I recommend. Keep in mind, this is the original Hellblazer run. They rebooted it. I think they're on the third reboot. But the 300 issue run. You had Jamie Delano, you had Mike Millar, you had Garth Ennis. That was how I found out about Garth Ennis. In the Punisher, my Punisher showcase, I talked about Garth Ennis. Easily one of my favorite comic book writers. But I found out because I was just collecting this Hellblazer comic, and then next thing you know, Garth Ennis took it over, and Steve Dillon. So this was pre-Preacher, and this is how I found out about Garth Ennis. And amazing, just amazing run, amazing run after amazing run after amazing run, to the point where like this was usually by the time a comic gets canceled, you're just like, okay, that it was time. Even at the end of 300 issues, I was ready, and he aged. I love it. It was almost like real time. So let's open it up, okay? 40 pages of sheer terror. So Faces on the Street by Satchmo Hawkins. So this is like a fake article about John Constantine. And John Constantine was a local celebrity already. He was in a punk rock band like in 1977. You know, the fake history of John Constantine. And the fake punk rock band was called Mucous Membrane. And I think his big hit was Up Yours or something like that. And he's on the cover given the British, you know, whatever. And so he was already like famous. And then in the 80s he became famous for being a street level magician. And I'll give you a little bit of background. So when they talked about him in the Swamp Thing comics, it was like the typical putting a band back together, not literally a band, but all of his punk rock magicians were getting together, and they didn't trust him because of what happened at Newcastle. They're like, you know, it's such a cliche, like, oh, I haven't seen you since Newcastle, don't bring up Newcastle. So that's like a running theme. There was a disaster at Newcastle, and they eventually bring up what happened at Newcastle, but that's not here nor there right now. But just keep in mind, his very first like magical adventure was a disaster. People got killed. And it was all of his friends, so one of his friends got killed. It was, and some of them got scarred, and some of them got like just messed up because it was a magical mishap. So keep in mind, he's going through and talking to his old accomplices, for lack of a better word, and they don't trust him. They don't want to be around him. He has an air of doom about him. So it starts out with a fat guy over here. Henry Wambach doesn't feel so good. Something black and hungry is nestling at his head. So he's going into this restaurant, and where'd all these bugs come from? He goes, I just got to get something to eat. And he pushes away the hot dog guy, and he's just eating hamburger, hot dog, going to the next. All the food's gone. He goes into this like high class restaurant, and he's just, everything satisfied. I want more steak, bring me French fries, and I don't know what that word is. And he's just eating. And look, he's getting skinnier the more he eats. And now he's jumping at other people's tables, eating. What does this have to do with Constantine? Well, it's setting up the story. Now he's grabbing this lady. He tried to bite her. Look, he's biting her. Get him off me. He's shoving the steak down his gullet, and he ends up starving to death while eating. And the name of the story is Hunger. And here's the credits. Jamie Delano is the writer. He's another British writer. John Ridgway, the artist. Karen Berger, the editor. Laverne, unpronounceable colorist, and Annie Haffacree, the letterer. Karen Berger, like I said in a few videos, is one of the most important people in comics that you've never heard of. I'll get back to her after I do the... Okay, I almost thought it said 1981. Okay, so you can subscribe. Where's the date? Where's the official date? 1987. Okay, that's the copyright. And I think this comic came out in 1988. Well, it said 1988 on the cover, so we'll stick with that. All right, so Karen Berger was a big editor at DC Comics, and she took a lot of risks. And she pulled all of these high-quality writers and artists and put, you know, under her leadership. And then eventually DC just said, hey, you're Vertigo, do whatever you want. And she put up, they called it the wall. There was a wall between. So if you were a Vertigo comic, you never really interacted with the DCU. And I remember going, oh man, it would be so great if John Constantine was to do a comic with Batman. Because he started out in Swamp Thing, and Swamp Thing interacted with all the superheroes, but then Swamp Thing and Constantine and the Doom Patrol, they all faded in, and Animal Man, they all faded into Vertigo. And there was this imaginary wall that separated them from DC. And I always thought it was a shame. Be careful what you wish for. They eventually broke that wall, and then, you know, John Constantine was like running around with the Justice League, and it just didn't fit. But I mean, him going to Gotham and seeing Batman would have been nice. But him, you know, I don't know, hanging out with Firestorm and stuff like that just kind of ruins his charm. So here's John Constantine. He's driving around, and you know, going back home. This is his list. So this is supposed to be like after the events of Swamp Thing. He's coming back home from a long time. It's John Constantine. And where the devil have you been for months and months with no word at all? Oh, here and there, Mrs. M, here and there. So this is establishing his cast of characters. He's going upstairs. There's his landlord. And he opens his door. He goes, oh, she goes, that drug, he goes, you got to, I didn't know, what did she say? I've got a bone to pick you. You're not now, Miss M. Where's love? I'm knackered. I didn't turn him away because I knew he was a friend of yours, but he was not right. This is a respectable house. What friend? That druggy friend, Lester or Gary, I forget, in the terrible state he was in, coming in here, barging, waiting for you. Is he still here? Language. I think he went. Never goodbye or a thank you, though. He owes me $17.50 for the parcel he sent me to post all the way to America. Here, that should cover it. As if I haven't got enough on my plate with the bloody insects. Insects, huh? That explains the rent-a-kill van. So Gary Lester. Gary Lester was one of his crew that was with the botched Newcastle excursion. So now he's home. He's like, just good to be home. He's reading everything, page 3, and he sees that's Lester. Lester left his drug kit, and look, it's filled with dead bugs. Insects, for Christ's sake, he must have bloody flipped. So he goes to the dishes, everything's dirty, and here's this jar full of bugs everywhere. He's like, what the hell? He actually pukes, and scritch. He goes into the bathtub. There's his friend, Gary. John, is that you? You got to help me, man. I'm sick with withdrawals. It feels like there's bugs all over me. There literally is bugs all over him. So he doesn't know what to do. Lord of the bloody flies. So he does what any good friend does. He goes out and scores some drugs for his buddy. So he sprays them off, cleans them up. That's Chaz. By the time Chaz arrives, the flat is a killing ground. Tiny black corpses crunch underfoot as you walk. Did you bring the gear, sir? This is Chaz. Chandler, I think his name is. And he's a taxi driver. And he's Constantine's best and really his only friend. And of course his wife hates Constantine because every time they hang out he gets in trouble and stuff like that. So he's breaking away from Constantine because he's a family man now. He's married, and since the comic is in real time, you see his children get old and he gains weight, his wife gains weight. They're like regular people. And he's really, I'm spoiling things, but he's the only one of Constantine's friends that lives, and a couple of times you're just like, oh, not Chaz. You end up liking him. So here he is killing all the bugs, and Chaz is fixing up Lester because he's going through withdrawals. He's like, tie him down in case he freaks out. So now here's the magic that Constantine does. It's basically like hypnosis. So what's going on? What's happening? So he was in the Sudan. He was in Africa, and he just going. What do you want? He's in all the bazaars. He sees the cripples and sick people, and he meets this kid. Kid has no tongue, and he's covered in these bizarre tattoos, and the kid's starving to death. He goes, "It's something inside him, something I couldn't resist." He goes, "In my room, a black passion seized me. It was irresistible. I wanted to get out." So he does this magic ritual to exorcise, and I know the art looks like the kid's on fire, but it's just literally flies just pouring out of this poor kid, and he traps whatever it is into this jar. So here he is, this demon. So literally, Lester knows a bit about magic. At this point, he's one of the few people that Newcastle messed him up so bad he became a drug addict. So here he is helping this poor kid. This poor kid is just, you find out that some evil people, they were plagued by this hunger spirit in Africa, and they found this poor kid, cut his tongue out so he couldn't tell anybody, and then trapped this demon Memnoth into him, the spirit of hunger, demon of hunger. And Lester does the right thing, and he's exorcising the demon and traps it. And for once I have the power, I trapped the demon in a bottle, and he's overwhelmed. The demon's been battling with him. He tells me its name Memnoth. I tried to shut it out, but it keeps pleading on and on and on. And he's already weak with the drugs, so the And he doesn't have the occult tattoos near him and stuff like that. So he's just suffering. He's suffering and he's weak. So what does he do? He mails the bottle to Constantine in America. He goes to Constantine for help, meets the landlord, asks her for money, and sends it to America because that's where Constantine is. But it gets broken in the post office, and the demon is freed. So now, tell me what the kid looked like. So he's looking at he's drawing him. So this, keep in mind, this is all a magical trance, and that's what I mean by the magic. It's kind of realistic. It's like hypnosis. So he has this magic coin, waves it. Now he's drawing stuff, even though he can't. His hands are shaky, and he's a drug addict. But because of the magic and the spell, he's drawing the kid. Because I don't know, you better go and pick up 3 days worth of food, fags, and dirty books. You're going to be doing a lot of babysitting. Fags are cigarettes in Britain. But no buts, mate, you owe me. And poor Chaz. Chaz never says no. So here he is. He's going to be spending 3 days babysitting Gary Lester. And that's the beginning of his wife hating Constantine. So here he goes. He goes to the British Museum. He talks to an old buddy. A bit balmy, but he knows his stuff. He goes, yes, I've seen these tattoos in the southern Sudan. This one still practices sacrificial magic. A bunch of the Dinka people. The tattoos are a spell of binding or containment, and the shaman must be a master of elemental magic. Seems like to make sense. Morocco, Sudan, better pack me a pith helmet. So now he phones New York, and he calls Papa Midnight. And Papa Midnight, this is the first time Papa Midnight is mentioned. He was the bad guy in the Keanu Reeves movie, and Papa Midnight and him have a history that'll be explored later in the book. And he's calling it, and like even though they're enemies, he's just like, okay, I'll help you because this is important. So now he goes to Africa. So here he is going to the Sudan. He's and he's meeting the shaman, and he's like, I'll hear you. You hear English, but I do not speak English. That's neat, the Pentecost effect. You could get a job. So like this is the magic in the book. There's no Ditko swirling energy and stuff like that. So he's speaking whatever language he speaks, and Constantine hears it. So and they're being translated. So he's telling him what he needs to do to trap the demon, but he can't help because his power is bound to Africa. So here's what you got to do. Here's the visions and psychedelic stuff, and he takes the form of flies. I breathe the scent of flesh boiled by the pitiless sun in the broth of disease and death. While the boy writhes with the torment of Memlot's hunger, I cut the power patterns of binding into the black skin. So he's the one that put it into the little kid and he's ashamed. But it was either that or it was the greater good. It was either this poor kid becomes the Judas goat, the sacrificial lamb, or everybody starves to death. And he's ashamed of what he did. So he gives Constantine his information and sends him on his merry way. So now here he is. Africa is 36 hours behind as the cab rolls back. The cold monuments of pandemonium. Half my brain is still here. Jet lag, elastic time. The DJ's voice is like butter. So here he is. Where is he? Is he back in Britain? Only New York. Oh, so now he's in New York. Okay. I can't be bothered. Mem, that's here, isn't it? I'm scared. Oh, so he that's right. He sent the bottle to New York. So the bottle is broken in New York. So now he and Gary are going to New York. He goes, will this Papa Midnight have any gear, John? I really need it. So now he's seeing Papa Midnight. So here's Papa Midnight. This is the first time you see him, his first appearance. So he's going to Haiti to learn. And this is Papa Midnight's sister. He talks to his sister, the skull. And there they are. They're you can hear my cat yelling, I'm sure. I'm a bit wobbly. And they go in and they sneak it in or whatever, and they go in and they get attacked by this like voodoo zombie kind of thing. And he's like, I didn't expect that. So he slaps them, and you dog, get down on your knees, down on your fat rotten belly, you are excrement. And he's just commands it, there, you just got to put in the hard word on him. So he's using his will, and he knows what to do to command this. So he goes, hurry up with the foul imbecile. Have you forgotten how to work an elevator? So now he comes up to Papa Midnight. He's a crime lord, voodoo lord, and he's got like zombie guarding his stuff. And here they are doing this. He's in his voodoo ritual and talking about everything. And I just realized that this is a two-parter. So here's a... juvenile joke. Here's Papa Midnight choking the chicken, and he's like, first tell me about your strange friend. How long have you known him? Do you trust him? I trust John with my life. So in the lift coming down, I get the shakes. Papa Midnight has that effect on you. Outside, it's raining. No cabs. It's funny. It wasn't raining when I got up. It wasn't raining up there. It must have been above the clouds. So he's going about his business, and he's going to Emma's place. Emma was killed by the Invunch. Hadn't thrown her out of the bloody window. Oh yeah, I'm a friend of Edna's. Man, in fact, she doesn't live here anymore, man, because she died. Did you? Yeah, she's dead. Did you know her? Not very well, but her death seems to have inspired me. Well, chum, that's an ill wind, as they say. So they were helping Swamp Thing in the Swamp Thing comics, and an Invunch is like a voodoo zombie came and went to kill Constantine, and he moved out of the way, and it threw Emma out the window. So all of John Constantine's friends always end up dead, and he just feels guilty. Her hair color's wrong, so he just wanted to. Did she ever get anything in the mail? Just want a parcel. I sent it back to the post office. Sorry, Emma. So, hi, John. So, Emma is dead, but Emma's talking to me. I can hear her. You don't look very pleased to see me. How are you? Emma is alive. Emma's a ghost are flipped. Dead, smartass. How do you think? You know, he's a magician. He can see the dead. I can't fight this. You took your time visiting the scene of the crime. Didn't see the point. You were dead. I missed you, John. It's lonely where we are. I had to come sooner or later. Yeah, we're all here. All your old buddies. Where's here? I just have to learn to live with it. Work it out, John. Where do you think? Look, kid, I'm a bit worse for wear right now, and I got problems. Yeah, I know. I'm Memnoth. I thought you could use a hand. Cheers, kid. Don't be silly. No touching. Constantine, you're a cold bastard. So, he's Emma when she was alive, talking about everything. And, she's telling the story, but you promised I hate you. She looks like people I know. And this guy, I got to get some meat. So this guy's a vegetarian. I want to taste blood flesh. I want to chew with veins in it. But you're a vegetarian. Not anymore. And he's just eating the pig. And then he dies all skinny. So Constantine witnesses this. I wonder if it works with flies. So it does. There we go. I'm the hunter. And here he is. He sees this manifestation of men. Well then, you bloody piece of hell meat, eat me. I'll bloody choke you. John, you idiot, get out of here. You're not strong enough. It fans me with pure fear. I face it, my anger shines. Back off, it wants you to fight. My fury is feeding it. It's going to kiss me. And all the flies, and he runs, and he runs, and he runs. And now this priest is oh yeah, this is the last page. So he gets out, and the flies go, and they go into this priest, and it's really horrific. This priest kills himself devouring this crucifix. And, here's the last page. Okay. Jamie Delano demonstrated brilliantly. English horror didn't vanish with the fog and gasless comics, cobblestones at the end of Victoria. Riveting gasp. Okay, so Alan Moore gave this his blessing. I didn't realize that. And so in the second, I'm just going to spoil this, just to get you. In the second issue, John calls out the demon, and him and Gary Lester and Papa Midnight make this like magic circle, and they summon the demon, and they have the bottle there, and Gary's like, is that bottle going to be strong enough? Is that bottle going to be strong enough? And then Constantine says, I'm sorry, and they send the demon into Gary, and then they lock Gary up, and Gary starves to death, and the demon is defeated. His host is killed, and it gets sent back to hell. So Constantine basically kills his only friend that still trusted him, Gary Lester. But they had to. It was the only way to do it. They had to make a sacrifice. And had that boy had starved to death and died before Gary intervened, the curse would have been lifted. So there you go. Poor Gary tried to help a kid and ended up starving to death horribly. And that's what happened to all of Constantine's friends. Emma was the first that we saw in Swamp Thing comics, and then Gary Lester in the second issue of Hellblazer, and it just goes on and on and on. And again, spoiler, Chaz is the only one who survives. You meet characters, you fall in love with these characters, and they die horrifically, to the point where in the Sandman comic, the King of Dreams, he asks Constantine for help, and Constantine helps him recover an object, and Sandman gives him a boon, and he just asks to no longer dream because he just wants to sleep without these guilty nightmares that he keeps having. It's a great comic. It's such a good comic. Not typical superheroes. I remember giving this to one of my friends to read, and he just hated it. You know, he's like, I didn't like it. But I don't know. So I just, look at this. But I can't recommend it enough. Pick up any trade. I will say, get the if you don't want to read all 300 issues, get the Garth Ennis trade. Oh my God, you meet his old girlfriend Kit from Ireland. Oh my God, such a good story. I could gush for another hour and a half. Constantine, Hellblazer, good stuff. Really, really good. What else can I say? There's twists and turns. He's a con man. He's a total bastard, but you root for him. He has moments of doubt and becomes like a hippie. He becomes con man, swindling, confident guy. He's kind of human, and he goes through these different phases. And I like towards the end he gains a lot of weight, and he's chubby and fat and huffing and puffing up the stairs. Because 300 issues is like 20 years. So, and he's supposed to be like 40 or so around here. So there you go. Great series. I just love it to death. I was really sad when they canceled it, and I had to pick up the reboot, and it just wasn't the same. There you go. All right. Thank you for your time. I appreciate it. Bye-bye.